Let me call the meeting to order. First thing I'd like to do is ask Councilman Alexander to lead us in prayer this morning.
Please stand. Lord, we come together as a community today, a community that is thankful for all that you have given us. Bestow upon us, the leaders, the wisdom, the charity, and the justice to promote well-being in all of our citizens in San Angelo, that we may make good decisions before you. Through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, we pray. Amen.
Amen. At this point, I'm going to ask Councilman Hirschfeld to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just to make sure I hit all the notes, Mr. Morrison, if you'd lead us in the Texas pledge.
Politically correct. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Oh, you guys are amazing.
I really wanted the United States pledge, though.
Oh, well, shame on you. Okay, at this point, the council takes public comment on all items in the, it takes public comment. We take public comment on all items in the regular agenda, and that will be taken at the appropriate discussion. Public input on an item not on the agenda or consent agenda may be identified and requested for consideration by the council at this time. The council may request an item to be placed on a future agenda or for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment. So is there any public comment at this time? Okay. Let me then ask for consideration concerning the consent agenda. Anything to be moved, or can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve and a second on the consent agenda as submitted. Call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then I think the next step really is to go into executive session, get that done, and then come back and knock out the items. But for the public to know, based on what was expected to be a rain event, of maybe some better order last night, we're postponing item number 10. The group from the UCRA was busy preparing for measurements and so forth, and so that'll be brought back up at a future agenda, on a future agenda. And we're also postponing item number 9. This is the Neptune Insight IQ software, and that will be brought up at the next meeting, probably March 5th. So items number 9 and 10 on the regular agenda are being postponed. So when we come back from executive session, it will be item number 11 through 15 that we take care of, and then the follow-up and administrative issues. So anyone related to item 9 or 10, I want to make sure you knew that straight away. So then at this point, I need to take us into executive or closed session for discussion. And so I will move us at 11:28 into executive session under the provision of the Government Code Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to the requirement that meetings be open, Section 551.072, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and under 551.071 to consult with an attorney on a pending or contemplated litigation item. So we're moved into executive session at this time. Are we moving? Oh, we're going to be in the back of the room, though.
So they're moving.
Okay, I do need to ask folks to leave this room then, based on the fact that we're going to be in the executive session in this room. Okay. It's 12:41, and we will start with item number 11, presentation of the fourth quarter report for the Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development Council, and the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm John Dugan with the Chamber of Commerce. You should all have your multi-page packet of everything that we could think to send to you this month. But in the part of the package, there's a memorandum that's kind of a synopsis of everything that's been moving forward that is a little more specific than some of the other things that are there and available. It's all, the rest of it is all the other information on a case-by-case basis. The last quarter of the year and beginning this year, we are I'm sorry, Paul.
We didn't get a packet.
You
So
It's in your.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a physical packet.
No. It was what
in
we
the
sent to you
background?
2 weeks
Okay.
ago.
Yeah,
Yes,
I got
it's
you.
just.
Okay, I got you.
It's all in there. It's all in there. If you look at the one that says memorandum, that's really what I'm going to be working through today. Just so you kind of know, as y'all have indicated in the past, you really want to know what we're doing and what those numbers look like and those types of things. Let me also, before I start that though, there is information in there on the strategic plan and the points that we're making toward that. We're continuing to do that, even though a lot of our time right now is really being taken up by the energy industry. We are, as you well know, because it is one of the most talked about topics within the town, we are being inundated by the oil field right now. And we are working diligently to make sure that we are meeting with those companies and looking for all the options and availabilities that are out there. The last quarter of the year, up until this report was written, basically in the end of January, we had worked specifically with 14 companies. That being said, about 3 or 4 of those we talked to on the phone through inquiries. The rest of them have actually visited our community. Several of them have visited our community several times and are looking at what their options are within the community. Of those companies, you'll see that we think about 4 of them are going to make decisions within the end of the second quarter. We have 2 that are poised right now that we feel are good candidates for the business park, but the rezoning will have to be done prior to that, and we're working on that through city staff. That's gone through the planning committee, and I think you guys will be seeing some of those options later on to try to get that moving. But we are kind of waiting on that for some of these companies because we're going to need that in order to place them out there if we're going to move in that direction. Part of what we're trying to do is address this. The city has been very proactive over the years to make plans. I mean, I think that's indicative with economic development as a whole, with the Business Resource Center. You guys have been very forward-thinking, trying to move us in the direction that we need to be. It's given us a leg up as we're presented these opportunities, and I think that's going to continue. As part of that, and especially with the Klein Shale, we are working with not only our local groups but also our regional partners to try to get prepared for what we know is coming. We've put together and have been kind of leading in the group with Workforce to put together a consortium for the Klein Shale and have been hosting meetings not only with some of our local folks but also with the surrounding areas. We are a regional partner with a lot of our smaller communities, and we understand that a lot of our economy comes from those smaller communities coming to San Angelo and spending their dollars. So they help us move forward as well. So we're trying to prepare ourselves, we're trying to help prepare them and give them some alternatives as well. As you see in the information that I've given you, we're looking specifically at workforce, housing, education, and the economic development piece. We have pulled in our educators within the community. We've pulled in our real estate folks. We are talking to developers. We're looking at all aspects of this because we think it's going to impact us in a lot of different ways. Since this report was turned in 2 weeks ago, I've had 4 new companies that I've talked with, 3 of which are oil-related, 1 is not. And we are continuing, by the way, to look for companies outside the oil-related area. It's just oil-related is taking up a tremendous amount of our time now, and we're having to make sure that we're following up the way that we need to. But we're still seeing other opportunities out there, and we'll continue to look at the other types of businesses, including manufacturing and agriculture and services and all of those things that are going through. You're going to be hearing from the CVB in a minute, and I'm sure that Pamela will be talking a little bit about what's been going on. You know, we're seeing hotel development possibilities. We're really talking with a lot of different folks about a lot of different things. I had no idea, and I've grown up in West Texas, just how many oil-related industries and companies there are, and the diversity of what they do is really pretty amazing. And we're seeing everything from water conservation to pipe strapping to enhancement of pipes. I mean, it really goes across the board. And we're very fortunate to have several companies that have already located here. And, of course, one of the bigger ones here has been a wonderful corporate citizen and has been moving some companies that they do business with toward us as well. So we're sitting down and talking with them. So we're seeing some great opportunities right now. We are also very concerned about our local businesses. We think there's going to be an impact on those. I'm already working with several of those, talking to them about workforce and what we think is going to happen with that. We're losing a lot of our employees to the oil field, and we understand that's going to be the case, so we're going to have to continue striving to develop the employees that we need. We're very fortunate in San Angelo to have a 4.8% unemployment rate. One of the things that's very different with the companies that I'm talking to now is one of my first questions prior to the last probably 6 or 8 months is, how many jobs are you going to create in our community? Now, along with that, I'm asking, how many people are you bringing with you? Because we know that we're not probably going to have the full workforce here that they're going to need, and we want to make sure when they come here they're happy with that move and they stay with us. So we're kind of changing some of the ways that we do things. But we're working through that. We're identifying real estate. I'm keeping files in my office that so we can go when we get these phone calls, because we get some really odd questions sometimes. But what we're trying to do is keep listings of real estate that's available. These companies, the vast majority of them are looking for small building in 10 to 15 acres. I mean, that's our normal thing. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. Some of them are looking at building their own buildings. Some of them are looking for something on ground. We don't have much on ground here. We don't have a big inventory here. So the ones that we have, we've been trying to gather information on, so we've got those out there and available. We've been working with the local realtors and doing those referrals and trying to move them forward. Very busy time for the community, and I think we're going to continue to see this for the next few years. Being from West Texas, you always wonder what's going to happen in the oil field. We've seen too many booms and too many busts over the years. This one seems to be staying here for a while, and I think we've got to be geared up to it, and that's what we're working toward. Again, we're still trying to support all the initiatives within the strategic plan. We are still supporting and are still, working through all the governmental issues that you're going to be seeing in the strategic plan. And we know what's going on in Washington right now. It could have an impact in our community, and it can have an economic impact. And we're trying to make sure that we help and work through those processes with all of those players as well. So we're really just all over the community right now, and that's filling up the majority of our time, and has for the last quarter, and will probably for the year coming, and we're going to continue to do that. With that, I'm not going to read you all this other information. It's all in there, but if there are any questions that I can answer.
I've got a quick one.
Yes, sir.
Just to educate people out there, when a new company comes in, or not comes in, but is looking at coming in. Yes. And they go to you and you work with them. Mm-hmm. What is the first thing you do? I mean, what are you trying to? What
I do is I actually interview those companies and find out what their needs are. Then we try to pair those needs, and I can do that with the real estate and those types of things. If we're talking about incentives, then I pull in the city staff. And of these companies we've been talking to, those 4 that I'm talking about that we think will make a decision with the end of the second quarter, they've also met with the city and Costa DC staff as well as us. In one case, we've got a company that we're expecting them to make a decision. They came in, I set up meetings with local accountants, with a local construction firm, with local architects, with human resources, because they're from outside the country and needed more information on how to do business in the U.S. So we try to be a liaison to bring them all together. Workforce comes in when they are needed, and we try to pair them with the companies as we begin to realize who's more serious than others. And basically, whoever within our partnership that we feel that we need to come in because we know, I mean, that's why we've got such a great partnership. We've got people who are very specific in what they do. And so we bring them all in those meetings as they're needed. And they're great to do that for us.
So the ones that, you talk about maybe 14 or 15 and 10 visited, 4 making a decision about it. The ones that decide to go another route, do they tell you why they decided? Are we capturing
Sometimes
that?
they do, and I always try to follow up with those to find out what's going on. I can tell you a couple of these. I know one of the ones that I visited with actually are in the region. They moved outside the city. They did that because of land prices. They found what they needed outside and felt that they could be better equipped to do that. It was more efficient for them to do that. We've also had a couple that we have talked to that have chosen to go toward the Permian Basin. And I will tell you, our land prices are going up very dramatically right now. And a few months ago, we really didn't have much competition in the Permian Basin. Unfortunately, because of the way our land prices are heading, we're less competitive than we were a few months ago from a standpoint of cost. So that's going to be one of the issues as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone
Okay,
else?
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm here to give you the report for the fourth quarter of 2013 for the Convention and Visitors Bureau. During the fourth quarter, we assisted with 23 conventions, meetings, sporting events, or motor coach tours. The projected attendance was 55,705 people with room nights of 2,763. The average length of days spent was 2.5, and the total economic impact was $6,430,780. I gave you a full packet that you got ahead of time that has all of the economic impact report, detail report, and pending business inside of that. I'd like to highlight a few things for you today. Advertising that we did during the final quarter, and you do have samples of some of these in your packet on pages 11 through 14, included billboards. We did 6 that ran from Thanksgiving till Christmas in Brady, Brownwood, Abilene, Midland, Llano County, and Lubbock. We ran radio programming on 69 radio stations across Texas with CBS Radio, Texas Radio Network. That ran from November 19th through the 21st of December. We advertised in the Texas Meeting Planner Guide, Texas Monthly, Texas Highways, Travel Host, Texas Events Calendars, and we had the release of the new 2013 Texas State Guide come out that quarter. We also advertised on Facebook, Google Search, and Tour Texas Online. We were a city focus at the Welcome Center in Anthony. Shows that we attended this quarter included participating with Team Texas at the Albuquerque Balloon Festival, the Military Reunion Network show, which was in Galveston, where we met with military planners from across the U.S., and attended monthly meetings for the Texas Association of Executives and Meeting Planners International. We did tour guide services for Patty's Tours and complete servicing for the Catholic Youth Conference. Last time I reported, we had just concluded the day before that conference, and we did have 1,500 folks. And it took literally all of our staff to service that, and even some CVB board members who helped with serving lunches and traffic control, et cetera. And in your packet, that's the second biggest convention that we have ever had. In your packet on page 6, I told you last time that they had remarked about how great the service was here in San Angelo and how well everybody worked together. They've since sent in an evaluation, and I gave you a copy of that in your packet. And you will see that we scored excellent and amazing in every single category. I say we, it's CVB services, yes, but also every facility and staff where they were when they were here. We did a presentation to the Model T Club at their conference this year in Bryan College Station, and we were awarded that conference for October of 2014. We were also awarded the Texas West Little League Tournament, and we had a tough time pulling that one together. We had to find 500 dedicated rooms for 5 nights. And so we were able to do it. We had it all contracted, and they did go ahead and give us a first-year trial. It is a 3-year rotation. If we do a good job the first year, we will get the 3-year rotation. Also, they've told us that they are looking for a home. So we're hoping that we also score excellent on that evaluation and bring them back. We will be using ASU dorms for a lot of the officials for this conference because we just didn't have enough rooms for everybody. We did sales trips to both Austin and Dallas to meet with various meeting planners and event planners. We met with the Texas Forts Trail to bring a new event to San Angelo that will happen on October 12th through 14. And it's going to be called the San Angelo Forts Tour. And they'll be doing a bike ride that on day 1 will go from Fort Concho to Fort Chadburn, on day 2 from Fort Concho to Paint Rock and back. And then on day 3, because it's Columbus Day, there's an optional fun day ride. It's a holiday for a lot of people. So we're looking forward to that new event. We completed an update on our promotional video, which is now live on visitsanangelo.org. And we did surveys for the Christmas lights and also our end of year surveys for the visitor center. And I've given you copies of those on page 8 of your packet. And just a few points where the folks came from. At the end of the year, 48% of those that filled out the survey were from out of state, 47% from another Texas city. I find it really fascinating. At half your point, those two were backwards. We were 47% of Texas, and they've just flipped. 5% international. Why they were here, I also find this interesting. Consistently, we have been weekend getaway, weekend getaway. Now we're vacation. So they're even starting to look at us differently. Second was weekend getaway, followed by business. Again, I like to reiterate that a lot of the business folks don't necessarily stop at the visitor center. And when they do, don't always like to fill out a survey. So that's why that business number is not generally real high. How did they hear about us? The number one reason, what made you come? Number one reason was advertising, 25% of them. 16% received a brochure, 15% from the internet, 13% heard about us from another visitor center, and 5% had a friend or family referral. The total room nights cited, camping was still the number one where they stayed, and generally they'll stay longer when they camp, so that's why you'll see the room nights higher. That's also a category that a lot of times they leave blank, so it's of those that told us how long they stayed. Top cities, Houston was number 1 at the end of the year. Number 2 was Austin. Number 3 was San Antonio. That was on our survey. I also found it interesting that on our sign-in book, where they just sign their name and where they're from, those top 3 cities were still there, just in a different order. San Antonio was 1, Houston 2, and Austin was 3. On the surveys that we did for the Christmas on the Concho, that's on page 10. There were 5,525 surveys. 1,090 of them were from out of town, so that's about 20%. So it helps us see that about 20% visitation. 26 other states and 208 other Texas cities is where they came from. At Christmas at Fort Concho, and their numbers are based not on a survey but on their sign-in book, 31% came from outside of Tom Green County. So based on 17,500 people, that was 5,460 people from outside of the county. The piece that I just handed out to you is our end of the year document. And I wanted to share that with you. Some of you that were at the chamber annual meeting got a copy of this already. But this is our total tourism activity for the year that we were associated with in some way. This doesn't mean this is all the business that was in town. These are the folks that we worked with. And with that, 10,135 people at the visitor center, 8 motor coach tours, 14 festivals, 48 conventions, 29 sports activities, and the total advertising inquiries. So these are people that saw our advertising and wanted further information on San Angelo, 24,104. On our budget, which is attached to the back of your packet, you'll see that the occupancy tax, as you have heard, did very well this year. We came in 141% of our budget on occupancy tax. We stuck with our budget that we originally had. We ended the year with 1,090 surplus, so we came right in about budget. And we are working with Michael Dane for a check amount that we will be returning from the 47% that we received because it did do so well this year. I saw the newest statistic yesterday from the Smith Travel Research Company on our occupancy and our average daily rate. We have now hit the 25th month in a row that both have been up. Can I answer any questions?
Questions for her? Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is number 12. This is the consideration of authorizing payroll deduction for police officer duty rifles. We have a presentation today by our Assistant Police Chief, Jeff Fant. Hi, sir.
Good evening. Glad y'all could have us here. Chief Vasquez couldn't be here today. He's out with a sick child, so he needed to stay home today, so I'm going to do the quick presentation. Essentially, it's nothing special. We're just asking for council's approval or authorization to do a payroll deduction for officers to be able to purchase a patrol rifle through payroll deduction. That's, in a nutshell, that's what we're here for.
Seeking a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by
I'll
Mr. Hirschfeld. I have a
second
second from Mr. Silvas. Do I have any questions for our chief? Okay. Big rifles.
That's all I need.
You should have
All
brought
right.
one.
Call for the vote. Is there any public input on this? Okay. We want to make sure they're assault rifles.
They are not assault
Oh,
rifles. They're
too bad.
patrol
All right.
tactical rifles.
All right. Outstanding. Call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item. This is number 13. This is the consideration of approving a license agreement with People and Plant Connection for the development and operation of a community garden at Rio Vista Park. We have a presentation by our Parks and Recreation Director, Carl White. Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Back on January 3rd of 2012, City Council authorized staff to negotiate this license agreement. We began the negotiations. The drought was pretty harsh during the summer, so we delayed the negotiations. Conditions have gotten better. We've picked back up on negotiations, and we've developed a proposed license agreement. Susan Stanfield, she is the president of the People Plant Connection. She is here to present her vision and answer any questions you may have. But before she does, I'll just cover the basic parameters of the agreement. Just looking at right quick, just for orientation, the proposed garden is here behind the Southside Recreation Center. It also includes two front areas that they have intention to utilize as well to kind of bring a front to the garden, kind of connect the street to the garden. Rio Vista Park is here, Southside Recreation Center is here, Ben Ficklin Road is here, Boys and Girls Club is here, and the Rio Vista Head Start facility is here. That's where the proposed garden is located. The basic parameters: a 5-year license with an option to renew for an additional 5 years, license of approximately 3 acres of parkland adjacent to the Southside Recreation Center and Boys and Girls Club, requirements to provide utilities at the licensee's expense for the garden, use of the large activity room, kitchenette, and restrooms at the Southside Recreation Center, improvements on the licensed property to include fencing, gardens, walkways, and signage, requirements by the group to provide educational classes inside and outside. And all the physical improvements would be the responsibility of the licensee. Maintenance of the licensed property would also be the responsibility of the licensee. And of course, standard insurance coverage. In case you have any questions on the parameters, I'm here to answer them. If not, we'll move on to Mrs. Stanfield.
I believe we're ready to move on. Good morning.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Do you have any questions about, I mean, we presented this before. Should I just go ahead and present it again, or what would you like to do?
I think that just a quick, particularly because it's recorded and because the citizens may have some, you can give at least an overview again. So if someone peeks in and sees this and it's their first time, you're giving them an idea of what you're doing and what we're considering, okay?
Okay, great.
Just a little overview would be nice.
All right. You can see from the plan that our first phase will be the landscaping the front of the Southside Recreation Center. We have virtually a blank slate there. We'll be using all drought-tolerant plants. The purpose of our garden is to educate people about water conservation, using drought-tolerant plants, because even when we get out of our drought, we're still going to need to have a strict water conservation educational program. We also will be talking about how to take care of the environment. We're going to have children's classes and adult classes, and actually, as you go through the garden, down there on the side garden, we'll have an outdoor classroom, so that will extend our classroom time that we can spend. We'll have an accessible garden for people with disabilities, wheelchairs. We have actually beds designed so you just pull your wheelchair up under it and you garden right there. There are also ones that you can stoop and you know, those of us who can't get down on the ground anymore can still garden, and we hope to increase their seniors who are out there, maybe wheelchair bound, and that can come and have a social time with the gardening and bring that back. Then we'll have a children's adventure garden, which is going to be teach children how to, everything they've learned on the computer, they're going to actually have hands-on experience. Our classes include a horticulture lesson, parts of a plant, trees, shrubs, you know, that kind of thing. Then we've designed a special series called Me and My Garden that is teaches life skills in compared to growing a garden. Responsibility, repetition, you know, that kind of thing. Then we'll actually be going out and our students will all be building the garden. We're going to build the basics of it, but they'll have hands-on. We'll have butterfly gardens, ABC gardens where you have little things that go on the ground, stepping stones, I'm sorry, that have ABCs on them, okay. And then all the plants around them will have that. They're going to have a, there's going to be a stage area so we can have presentations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, school groups can come and use it, and it's just going to be all about plants and nature.
Thank you. Questions for the lady?
Are y'all going to be trying to do any kind of rainwater collection, say off the Southside Rec Center?
Actually, we had, I don't know if y'all saw the article in the paper, it was a little early, sorry about that. We won a grant with the San Angelo Area Foundation, and there's already one in place.
Excellent.
And I just checked on it a little bit ago, and we actually have some water in it. So Excellent. It's very exciting. That roof, just so you'll know, because I'm very pro water conservation and rainwater harvesting, that roof will provide in that one tank. If we'd been collecting it since September of last year, we've had 9.01 inches of rain. We would have collected 14,000 gallons of water.
How big a tank is it?
It's a 3,000 gallon tank. So we will use rainwater. The goal is to line those up all along that side, because it's if you've ever been there, it's really eroded away the land. So we could have been collecting all that water.
Thank you. Other questions or comments for her? Okay.
Mayor, I have one quick.
Mr. Silvas.
Remind me, have you done this anywhere else before?
No.
In the city?
No.
This will be your first project?
This is brand new. The only other one that is like this that I know about is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's called the Linnaeus Learning Garden.
Well, having said that, or asked that, I'd like to make a motion to approve this. And I applaud your efforts. I think this is a very good cause. You know, I like to say that I grew up with green thumbs. So as a child, I remember planting stuff. So I think those children definitely benefit. So I applaud your efforts.
Okay, I have a motion to approve this
Second.
licensing agreement, and I have a second from Mr. Silva, second from Mr. Hirschfeld. Do I have any further questions or comments from council?
I did just want to mention that Mrs. Stanfield, she is a certified master gardener. It takes some effort to get that certification and maintain it. And currently, she is the president of the Master Gardeners as well.
Excellent. We appreciate the project. So, okay, is there public input on this item? Okay, call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item number 14. This is the discussion of the 2013 through 2018 capital improvement plan, preparation, procedures, submissions, and public forums. Presentation by Budget Manager Morgan Trainer.
Good afternoon. Our main goal today is to talk about what we got out of the public forums. We had amazing turnout, and we'll talk about what we heard from the public, what we want to pass on to y'all, and where our next steps are. So just to remind us where we are in the CIP calendar, of course, but project managers have prepared submissions. There's a draft. You have a copy of that in your background, but it is a really rough draft, and I'll get into why in a little bit, but it will be polished and refined before it's adopted. The committee did meet and review the CIP, and then we had 2 public meetings. Recall that this is information that has to go in the CIP. We went over this with the public so that they knew what document we were going to eventually put out and how we get all of these items into the CIP. And of course, that this is often what defines a CIP, capital improvement plan project, land facilities, something that requires 6 months to complete, provides a service to the citizens for 3 years, and exceeds $25,000. So just an update there. So we had our public meetings. February 7th, we had one here at the Convention Center at 6 p.m., and then we had one Tuesday, February 12th at Lincoln Middle School. We had a lot of help from the Public Information Office, getting radio interviews, got it out on SATV. I still have Channel 17 on here, but lots of input, lots of public outreach went out in that way. And in the newspaper, we had a good write-up in the Standard Times with lots of detail in it. So for the Thursday, February 7th meeting that we had here at the Convention Center, we did it a little differently than we've done in the past. We wanted people that couldn't come to the meeting were able to watch it live online, and we were able to air it on SATV, so that's running still. But so it was a little different setup than usual, but lots of good input. We had 66 citizens sign in that they were able to attend and speak to items. I will say that is the biggest turnout we've ever had at a public forum for a CIP. So we were glad to have that kind of input. So the main topics we talked about are listed here. A constituency from Fairmont Cemetery. 9 people spoke up and said, please make those phase 1 improvements. Recall that is in the CIP to the tune of about $600,000. That is something that they stepped forward and asked that the City Council consider for funding when the time comes. Also, a large group supporting Martin Luther King Boulevard improvements. About 41 people came to speak on their behalf. Lots got up and spoke. Many raised their hands and said, that's what I'm here for tonight. So that's how we knew Martin Luther King, they wanted some attention there. Of course, there is the capital improvement part of it that is included in the CIP for future years is a reconstruction of that area between 26th and 29th Street. So that's where it's a CIP issue. They were also asking about things like neighborhood revitalization. They were grateful for the increased police support. Just in general, lots of improvements that could be made there. And so the CIP side of it is being included for consideration. Other items that are not capital improvement has been passed on to relevant staff so that everybody knows the requests that are being made. For example, bus stops available for kids when they're at, early morning and dark and waiting for the school bus, curbs, sidewalks, things like that. So lots of improvements that are good ideas out there. Police building and other support, what I mean by that is there was an individual that asked that we consider funding the police department, which of course is in the CIP, but also additional pay for police officers, additional police officers, just support in general for our police department. And so again, getting passed on to relevant staff, and the part that is CIP will include. A couple more items brought up during that Thursday, February 7th meeting. 5 folks came forward and spoke on behalf of Fort Concho, wanting some improvements there. Of course, we are making strides towards hopefully doing something out at Fort Concho as the funding sources become available. So just to keep in mind, Bell Street reconstruction and maintenance. Street reconstruction and maintenance as a whole was something that was discussed, of course, and Bell Street in particular was mentioned. So that was for that Thursday meeting, the summary of what we talked about. The next meeting was at Lincoln Middle School. Again, about 38 citizens were there and signed in, several council members, so we appreciate your support there. Had a really good conversation, again, about Fairmont Cemetery, Phase 1 improvements, Martin Luther King Boulevard improvements, and police building and other support. The only item to note of there was more folks showed up to speak about police department and its support, and certainly wanted to pass that on. So, of course, the CIP document is a plan. We are prepared to, the reason I said it's a rough draft right now, we have direction from Mr. Valenzuela about what he would like in a CIP. Of course, this is the first one adopted under him, so we have some changes to make in that way. But also, we hope that some discussion during the strategic plan may also impact what gets adopted in the CIP, and so we will be agile and available to make whatever changes based on the City Council's priorities and direction based on that strategic planning meeting. So that's what we'll move forward with. So the plan right now is, again, we had discussion today, further discussion March 5th, and I don't have adoption on here. The adoption will depend on how many changes we need to make, how rough a draft we really have before we get it polished and finalized and before you again. So I wanted to leave that open-ended so we had plenty of time to get City Council's direction during strategic planning and other items. So it will come to you for adoption during a resolution. I just don't have that scheduled yet. So
I think that's well done, because strategic plan's on the 26th, and so everything you said makes great sense. Questions for her? Okay.
Mayor, if I could, I'd like to kind of give some perspective on this year's CIP process. I think that thus far the CIP process over these several years has done a good job of identifying needs. I think this year, based on conversations with Daniel, we want that process to begin focusing on action. And Daniel, if you want to take over and talk about focus and strategic planning, we want to translate this identification of needs into an action plan.
And basically what we talked about is more of the funding mechanism, how we're going to tie in, instead of coming up with a list or a wish list, how we're going to tie in that funding mechanism and how we're going to pay for these projects. Mary, you mentioned that, of course, on the 26th, we're going to have a strategic planning workshop. At that meeting, we'll discuss a lot of where some of the thoughts that I have that I'd like to share, of course, that I've already shared with the finance department, with the assistant city managers. But again, a lot of it will be how do we tie funding to each one of these projects. So we look forward to that. Thank you.
Okay.
You mean these projects cost money?
Public, is there any public comment or public input on this one? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is the first public hearing and reconsideration of introducing an ordinance ordering the general election and special election for May the 11th of 2013. So the presentation is by our city clerk, Alicia Ramirez.
Mayor, this is simply to add the SMD 5 unexpired term to the special election. As well, I also want to direct you to the polling locations. Since we're having a joint election with the independent school districts, we had to modify that list as well.
Okay. You have questions for her? Is there any concern about the modification to work with the city or to work with the school district? I mean, I can't think of any, or no concerns. Okay. Is there any public input on this item? Okay. This is, again, a first public hearing and consideration of introducing an ordinance ordering the general election. So she does need a motion ordering the general election and special election for May the 11th, 2013.
Motion to approve.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve this as presented and to
Mayor,
make.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
Alicia, I got a phone call yesterday from the Department of Justice about some poll places being moved.
Correct.
Is that going to have any effect on us, or?
No, what happened is we have our same polling locations. It's the precincts that we had to modify. Because since I think Wall is having a bond election, so we had to accommodate the Wall School District as well as the voters within the city limits that will be voting on the Wall issue. So that's basically what it did. We just kind of reorganized. We have the same polling locations, it's just we reassigned the precincts. So the polling locations remain the same. Our branch locations, with the exception of one, remain the same. So it's just reassignment of the precincts to the polling locations.
Yeah, I think the lady mentioned something about Sierra Vista moving to TxDOT.
Yes, that's the one we used to have it at
That's the
Sierra
one.
Vista.
And
We
then
try to keep within the same location or area of the city. So we had to move that branch location.
So nothing negative.
Correct,
about
nothing negative.
the process.
As a matter of fact, it's more accessible to the voters.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions or comments before I call for the vote? Any public input on this item? Okay, call for the vote to introduce this ordinance ordering the general election and special election from May the 11th, 2013. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's move then into the follow-up and administrative issues. At this point, there was not action required on the executive session items, and so number 17, can I get a motion concerning these appointments to the Development Corporation and Planning Commission boards?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Me call for that vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Do we have announcements and consideration of future agenda items? I have something for you, Mr. Ramirez, on single-member District 4. Is there I need to know from the two of you about the opportunity to appoint, possibly for me to appoint John Barrio to represent single-member District 4, not today, but at the next meeting. And
Right,
okay.
it would be council as a whole
Okay.
to make that appointment.
Okay.
So I can list that as a future item.
Single-member District 4 has been represented by Mr. Barrio. It's my understanding from his colleagues on that board that that they think he's doing a good job, and for continuity on that board, the same Cosa DC, I want to make a recommendation that we bring Mr. Barrio onto that board. But so I'd like to put that down for the next meeting and have it set up where we all vote to approve him and bring him through. Okay? Okay, Ms. Ramirez, if you'd put that on the next one, it looks like we have consensus that we could get that vote.
Okay, with that said, there are other vacancies, board member vacancies. Can I send you a list of?
Why don't you run them to me and let me take a look and
Okay.
and see if what we've got there. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. I mean, it's not too long before a sitting council member could make his own appointments, and so I want to be sensitive to that. But on this particular board, we had a pretty good turnover on this board, and then we could have some turnover at council. So I thought continuity on this board was pretty important, and so that's why I wanted to ask you guys to consider letting me move forward with Mr. Barrio's appointment, and it looks like that could all work out. So, I mean, specifically, we're concerned about this board, but I will look at the rest of those and see if we ought to talk about it, okay? Okay. Okay, any other announcements? Yes, sir, Mr. Morrison?
I am getting some requests in my area about these oil field trucks that are driving on our little small lanes out in North San Angelo. One of them I'm thinking about is Cawley Lane, and I'd just like Clinton to maybe put something together. What qualifications must be met? What do we need to do to put a truck limit, load limit on our roads? Because I think we're going to have more and more of these.
So they're getting water? Are they going in and getting water?
Oh, they're just
from a
using it
well,
as a
or-
shortcut.
Shortcut.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's an 18-foot road, and they're destroying it. So, if Clinton could do something about that, put something together, because there's something we're going to need in the future.
Okay. Other announcements or requests?
Motion
Okay.
to adjourn.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Do I have, let me just call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you.